Goshnar, despite the evil in his heart, offered the members of his former order the possibility of withdrawing from the place and gave them to understand that the true reason for his presence in Fair Plains had nothing to do with them particularly, and therefore the war did not belong to them. Some secret knowledge was possessed by the Necromancer King which most of the members of the Nightmare Knights were ignorant of. At this point it was already obvious that Goshnar had used the Nightmare Knights as a tool to learn the secret of dream walking. Furthermore, all these facts explained that the extraordinary powers that the Necromancer possessed were not by chance. Despite the Necromancer King's latest warning, the Nightmare Knights did not give up. Their order was based on honor and justice, and they preferred to die annihilated than surrender to evil. Thus, again war and chaos broke out in Fair Plains. The flora that once existed turned into fire. Races fought each other, mutilated bodies could be found everywhere, seas and rivers had turned red, and fewer warriors from all alliances were left alive. But thanks to the great skill in weapons and magic of the strongest members of the Nightmare Knights, they managed to prevail in the battle against the Necromancers, and the war seemed to come to an end. Only Goshnar and a handful of loyal Necromancers remained. The Necromancer King let them know that he still had highly dangerous allies and that sooner or later they would go into battle. The Nightmare Knights did not believe the words of the injured Necromancer. Poltanen, a High Lord of the Order, wielded a weapon gifted to him by the elves. It was an extremely powerful sword, made of broken dreams and a perfect edge. Poltanen ran towards the Necromancer and with the sword named the Avenger, he managed to pierce the wounded body of the Necromancer King who collapsed on the ground. At that moment, a silence took over the place for a few seconds. The Knights of the Order began to celebrate their victory with their weapons in the sky and hugs. They thought the chaos had come to an end. But the celebration was not very long. A few minutes passed until from one moment to another an energy that flowed from the earth, the sea and from the few trees that remained in the plains, began to be visualized in the air. The mana accumulated in the area was directed and converged on a common point. A short distance from the battle stood a mysterious pregnant sorceress, surrounded by a sparkly blue aura, floating slightly in the air, her arms loose, her palms open and her eyes closed. Poltanen withdrew the sword from Goshnar's body and began to rise slowly as he looked at the woman in surprise. Everyone was paralyzed and no one understood the situation. Then all of a sudden, the woman's eyes flashed, her arms spread wide, and a heart-rending scream was heard. All the members fell to the ground and covered their ears. A powerful energy was unleashed from the hands of the powerful sorceress that spread throughout the area. The shockwave destroyed some of the remaining buildings, including the construction of a nearby cathedral to the west of the plain. The land shook, a great earthquake was unleashed and a faint demonic essence began to emerge from beneath the Order's feet. After a few minutes, the atmosphere calmed down and the mysterious sorceress fell to the ground due to lack of mana. The few remaining necromancers took the woman on their shoulders and fled from the place. Trimon, another High Lord of the Order, ordered some knights to follow the girl who had taken refuge in the far lands of Karlin. Later they would learn that the mysterious sorceress was the very daughter of Goshnar and future mother of the powerful Ferumbras, who had not yet been born. The woman was known as Fernubras, whose name she would change to Yenny the Gentle in the future to hide her identity due to the persecutions. The Knights of the Order did not quite understand what had happened and rose again. In addition, in the wake of the destruction that remained, they decided to change the name of the desolate place from Fair Plains to Plains of Havoc. The remaining members of the Order took Goshnar's corpse for burial. They carried the body aside from their underground fortress, in order to protect the necromancer's corpse from being stolen or revived. The fortress also had a long tunnel that led to their treasure room where they hid their powerful weapons. The path was protected by various traps and seals to allow access only to members of the Order. When everyone was resting, a member of the Order who was digging the hole to bury Goshnar's corpse, noticed that the earth was burning with heat. He called out to other members and they quickly headed to the room of their treasures. They realized that demonic essence emerged from the earth walls, while a rift began to open on the floor, but it was not just an ordinary rift, it was a portal that connected with another dimension. The portal was so powerful that it affected the fabric of space and time to all who approached. Members of the Order just realized that the powerful sorceress had used her energy to help create the portal. And after a few seconds, some hideous and never-before-seen creatures started to come out of the hole. The first to come out was a kind of juggernaut, which almost effortlessly crushed 6 members of the Order in 1 second. Some members, in desperation, entered the treasure room and quickly sealed the entrance with magic, while another group quickly exited the cave. At this moment, the Dream Master remembered the words that the elf had mentioned, and now they were beginning to make sense. The elf, in addition to other secrets, had told him the words necessary to seal Goshna's grave. The Dream Master, in despair and probably misunderstanding the elf's message, ordered some members of the Order to seal Goshna's grave. Then he ordered another group to head to Oromond, which were lands unknown to most of humanity at the time, but which could probably be used to install new bases for refuge, since according to some rumors, those lands could possess artifacts of great power that could be of great help in facing evil. Thus, an expedition of a few knights and a dwarf moved quickly in search of the mysterious island. While the members of the Order that remained in Plains of Havoc quickly used magic and wrote on the grave. Once the tomb was sealed, as they ran to the surface, another huge explosion occurred and a big part of Tibia was clouded over due to the eruption of a volcano. The knight stumbled as the earth shook again in the form of an earthquake. Members from the floor crawled and carefully peeked out to see what happened. With dilated pupils they observed that from the deep caves there was a flickering glow of unleashed energy, and the walls of the underground fortress were quickly covered in fire.